Welcome back, and to know more about the forum and its goals, we're glad to be joined over the phone by Dr. Heba Ashraf, Professor of Economics in one of the private universities. Good afternoon, Dr. Heba.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Heba, the two-day forum is being held at the new administrative capital. Do you believe that there is a meaningful message behind selecting the new administrative capital to hold this forum?
Yes, of course, there are a lot of messages because choosing this new place as a new start for such an important forum is very important. The administrative capital reflects a comprehensive place. All the eyes of the whole world is directed towards Egypt and what is going on there. So it's a very good choice and convey a lot of messages to the whole world.
Yes. What's the significance of the forum, especially that it has been launched ahead of the COP27 that will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh next November?
There are a lot of things that are going to be discussed in COP27 that needs discussion with the countries that will be involved, especially in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
So there are important things to discuss as priority subjects such as the climate action, the clean transition, the innovative blended finance that is supposed to be a very important concern because financing any project needs private sector in conjunction with the government and so on. All these items need to be discussed with the African countries because the COP27 is going to focus especially on the needs of Africa in specific.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, to move from pledges to implementation, would you tell us more about the incentives provided by the state to encourage private sector to implement green projects in Egypt?
As I said before, these projects are mega projects and needs a lot of finances. The government on its own cannot work separate from the private sector. The private sector can work hand in hand with the government in order to achieve such projects. As we said, for example, like solar energy and so on, all these things need a lot of investment. Governments nowadays are experiencing heavy loads to cover the needs of the population. So the join of the private sector in this field is very important. That is why the government is providing permits, providing incentives like tax incentives and, as we said, permits in order to start these projects and launch them quickly.
Yes. Would you please highlight the main topics that will be tackled during the forum?
The title of the forum itself is actually explaining what's going on, economics, environment, finance. So these are the things that need to be covered, especially in the field of going green and the green transition that means moving from being or using the original ways of energy and technology and moving to more green and efficient sources.
Yes. How does the green economy contribute towards environmental sustainability?
By the way, the concern about the environment is not that new, but majorly the statistics lately is reflecting a turn in the resources that we have. With the increased pace of population, this means that we need to conserve these resources for the future generation.
Yes.
The problem will burst one day later on, maybe 100 years from now. So we should be prepared. Especially Africa has a lot of resources. So it's very important to use the green economy theoretical background that we have in order to apply it on ground, in order to save the resources that we have. In order, of course, to achieve sustainability, and going green is very useful even on the personal level of the population.
Yes. Egypt has taken many steps to transform to a green economy. Would you tell us more about this, focusing on the environmental friendly projects implemented in the various fields?
Well, we have actually focused on three main fields: the energy and the agriculture, the transportation as well.
Yes.
As I said before, energy, using clean energy and clean energy resources like solar energy, clean hydrogen, and so on. using the power of wind, as the windmills in Ras Gharib, or the solar energy project, mega solar energy project in Aswan, for example. All the transportation system later on is transferred into electric sources, using gas instead of petrol. All this will decrease the emissions very much. Also in agriculture, using renewable resources and clean resources are very important. And lately there are more fields that are going to join, like the healthcare. We're talking about green hospitals. We're talking about using less emissions and less waste from the hospitals and so on.
Yes, Egypt is pressing forward with the renewable energy projects to reduce climate change. How far has Egypt progressed to reach this end?
We are achieving a moderate pace in this, but the pace is about to increase later on, because we have been starting and launching the infrastructure to have clean energy, for example. After you have the resources and the infrastructure, it's easy to build up capacities based on this. This is after all the capital accumulation. Once you have it, you can start mega projects later on. That depends on the energy sources and so on. So we were in the implementing phase. I think that the pace is going to increase more and more. And by the way, the pace of development in Egypt is actually increasing year after year.
Yes. Well, during COP26 summit, Egypt has warned that Africa is the most vulnerable continent that bears the impacts of climate change. Now, why is this, and until when will Africa carry the burden of other countries?
The problem is that African countries are poor countries mostly. Not all of them are using their resources very well. Some are facing some political unrest. Some are not using their resources efficiently, as His Excellency the President has said before, that Africa has a lot of resources, a lot of forests, a lot of things that can be used efficiently. If the expertise are transferred to Africa, these resources will be fully utilized, and this will transfer Africa from this situation to a better one. Yes. Some countries have been using this problem negatively in order to pursue some ideas or some activities like dumping some waste and so on. So now, although Africa does not actually participate in very high emissions, but actually it needs and requires to use its resources better and to stop these activities so that it can be an environment for better investment and to go more green.
How can Egypt, ICF, bridge financing gaps when it comes to climate change in the African continent?
Well, the finance, as we said, is the most important thing. You might have very promising plans, but without a positive plan of finance, these plans will not be achieved. So merging the point of view between the private sector and the government, indicating the problems that might face the private sector, this will ease the finance of the project and, of course, will achieve actual achievements on the ground. As we said, we're moving towards achievements and actual achievements on ground rather than just plans and ideas.
Well, Egypt has invited African countries to hold a consultative session on climate energy to coordinate the African position ahead of COP27 in November. How can Egypt use this platform to press for woes of Africa due to climate change?
Well, Egypt has experienced a lot of, as we said, development in this field. We have taken steps towards going green in many fields, as we said. We are developing this year after the other. Now, we have achieved this by taking expertise from experiences abroad. There has been support from European countries in this field especially. We have learned and gained experience. This now can be transferred from our point or position, as we can say. We can act here as a hub to the African countries so that we can transfer these expertise. They can learn from our experience and we can engage in investments and so on. This can be, of course, discussed in the COP27. This is a very good chance in order to connect the African countries more together. As we said, Africa has a lot of resources and it requires actually to be used more efficiently.
Well, Dr. Heba Ashraf, Professor of Economics, many thanks for your insight. And
Thank you so much.
dear viewers, now we go to a short break and we'll be right back. Short break and we'll be right back.